Welcome back. We're joined by investigative journalist Sam Cooper, and it's a joy to have you on, Sam, because you always share with us such shocking information. And in this one, we're talking about our North American security, especially as seem to be very much threatened by this fentanyl racket that seems to be championed by various countries, including China. You've reported that Canadian banks, real estate, and casinos are part of this laundering pipeline. Okay, casinos, we could perhaps understand. Real estate, we know that there has been a lot of foreign interference, especially in British Columbia with real estate. But the Canadian banks, that seems shocking to many of us. Tell us about that.
It absolutely is shocking. And again, in willful blindness, I reported that the hockey bags of cash being carried into BC government regulated casinos was shocking enough. But I believed at a high level, Canadian banks were also involved in the very same system of money laundering, perhaps in more complex ways. And indeed, the evidence that has emerged from US government investigations focusing at this point on Toronto Dominion Bank were that the very same type of money laundering was occurring in tri-state branches. That's in New York, that area. Chinese international students were part of this brokerage system of collecting fentanyl cash in a very sophisticated way, coming from the proceeds dealt by the Mexican cartels. That cash gets bundled up in cash warehouses and then parceled off in very sophisticated ways and carried into bank branches. And the trick here is that Chinese transnational crime has, with assistance from Beijing, infiltrated diaspora communities to the extent where banks that service that population in high numbers, sometimes the blind eye is turned. Sometimes staff on the inside can be corrupted by the money launderers. And so there's actual evidence in TD Bank branches in the United States of, I believe, $300,000 of cash being put into a cashier's window. So when I saw that evidence, the type of evidence that has led to a $3.1 billion fine against TD Bank in an ongoing criminal
Yes.
prosecution. Look, I was struck, of course, because it's the same type of photographic evidence that I had for the British Columbia casino story. And as I knew, it's not just TD Bank, really, it is China has been, unfortunately, in their thuggish way, using diaspora high proportion communities in Canada, especially Vancouver and Toronto, to infiltrate banks, casinos, real estate. And it's the US government that took enforcement action. My argument, and it's proven by fact, is Canada's government has turned a blind eye, I believe, for decades to this trade. And
But well,
to
let's
use
talk
the
about that because across multiple governments, we have Canadian officials that seem to be slow to act on this. As they should all read your book. It has all the information there. But there seems to be almost a lack of will of acknowledging the interference because we have political interference going on in this country. Is this fear, denial, or is there something more at play here?
That is the question. And if I speak very honestly to my ongoing investigations, at first we could call it willful blindness to the extent that Canadian leaders in business and politics turned a blind eye to money coming from China because it's been so profitable to our economy. So that is not that hard, I think, for some Canadians that are open to facts to believe. What becomes harder to stomach is that my recent story is based on sources, some that can be named and some can't. So US government, Canadian government experts say there is a political corruption element to this story. The United States government has become increasingly concerned that the reason Canadian officials can't prosecute some of these major cases or don't seem to want to make the legal reforms that would crack down on rampant money laundering and fentanyl trafficking raises the question of, to be blunt, why are senior Canadian officials being pictured so many times with what I'm asserting are the very actors from Chinese transnational crime who would be involved in election interference networks, who would be involved in what we've come to know as CCP police stations. These are very sophisticated international business people, but under the surface, I'm asserting, along with US government experts, they're involved in organized crime and they're being used as a center of gravity by Beijing to attack our societies. And why hasn't Canada responded? I have very serious concerns that corruption's involved.